What I'm holding in my hand right now is an apple. A food item that you can find almost anywhere here in Cyrodiil. But you want to know where I found them the most? A place called Imperial City. And after seeing how many apples and other foods are just laying around here, it really got me thinking, how much food is in Imperial City? And we're gonna figure that out right after I eat this apple. Pretty good apple. The city is divided into 7 districts here, with the Palace Tower being in the center. But we're also going to include the surrounding areas like the stables and the prison, and even the lower section, the sewers. I'm going to go district by district, borrowing everyone's food so we can tally up exactly how much each section has. And then for fun, we'll see if that food supply would actually be enough food to feed the residents in that district for a week, assuming that they would get groceries once a week, just like we do. And at the end of that, I'll show you the exact total of the food for the entire city. So please don't skip to the end of the video. I promise this will all be worth it. Our first stop is going to be Chestnut Handy Stables, which is located right outside the main entrance of Imperial City. And you would think that this stable would be a lot bigger considering the size of the city. But actually there's only like 8 horses out here. And also I didn't know this before the recording, but supposedly the reason why there's not that many horses is because they got eaten by orcs. But on a good note, I did find some food in the barrels back here. We got some lettuce, some corn, and some onions. Not bad. There's also a bucket of what seems to be blueberries, but it's not an actual item I can pick up, so unfortunately I can't really count it. But as we make our way inside the stable house, there's still not much in here either. You do have some barrels back here with vegetables and rice, and over here we have some wine and carrots. I even started pickpocketing the locals around here just to see if I could scavenge any more food, and it turns out they did. They had a couple apples on them. But now comes an even bigger question. Could the residents of this stable actually live off of this food supply on a weekly basis? And to do this, I'm gonna keep things pretty simple here. I'm just gonna be looking at the calorie metric for each food item here. I know your proteins, vitamins, and all that stuff matter too, but I feel like this was just the simplest way to see if a resident could survive for a week or not. And so going off of that, a typical adult would need about 2,000 calories on average daily. And since there's 3 people that live in the stable, that would total up to 42,000 calories needed to survive. And so now if we total up all the calories for the food here, which I just counted up by Googling the average calorie count for each food item. And after all that, I totaled up to a rough estimate of 48,600 calories, with the flour being the main factor here. I did not know flour was that calorie dense. That's insane. So would this section of Imperial City be able to survive from this food? I mean, they're gonna be eating a lot of bread from the flour, I suppose, but yeah, they should be good. Next up is the Waterfront District. That's located southwest of the city along the Rumare Lake. This is also considered the poor section of the city, as you can tell with the wooden houses around here. And on the front section, we have these 4 buildings here. And I want you to ignore that one over there. We'll get to it later. But these 3 are actually Imperial offices. And once I went inside to investigate, I noticed a pretty interesting pattern they all had. All 3 offices had this exact same layout. And in one corner, there were 3 apples that had fallen over, all in the same position of each house. I just kind of thought that was funny. Other than that though, there actually wasn't that much food in here. So then I checked out the 4th building, which is actually a house that you can get access to by finishing the Thieves Guild quest line. And I ended up finding some wine over here and some rice in the basement, but there really wasn't much more than that. So after that, I went ahead and stole the beggar's food bag over here. And after that, we got the Waterfront Lighthouse, which is where all the guards live in this district. And they had a good amount of food in here with the apples, the bread, and the wine. I tallied up just about 30 items over here. And over at the Bloated Float Inn, which is technically just a docked ship that's turned into a little inn area, and there was a decent amount of food in here too, with about 40 food items, including the pumpkins. I like pumpkins. And of course, on the other side of Waterfront, we have the docked pirate ship here. Don't mind them, they're just sleeping. I found them like this. Anyway, after rummaging through their ship, I only seemed to find some wine, some flour, some vegetables, and a sweet roll. And lastly, we have the residential area, where most of the residents live. And among all the houses here, I tallied up about 100 food items. And after adding everything up, Waterfront District has 284 food items, summing up to 235,000 calories. And with about 28 residents, including the guards, they consume 392,000 calories per week. So yeah, that's not enough food. They're gonna die. they're gonna die. Next on, we'll go ahead and stroll over to the Arcane University. They also have a nice big tower with the residents in the back here. And I'll be honest, there wasn't as much food here as I thought there would be for a whole school of mages, sorry. Matter of fact, most of the food here is actually outside. But before we get to that, let's look at this tower first, which only provided some apples and wine in the top room here. But over by the quarters inside each house, we got some steaks, some fruit, and of course some wine. But where most of the food was here in the university was outside. Like in the garden over here, we have a bunch of mushrooms like the fly amanita caps. Amanita, it's such a weird word. Amanita. So anyway, after tallying up all the residents here, we have 13 of the important ones. And it was kind of hard counting up the other ones because their names were just like scholar or apprentice. So I just did a rough estimate of maybe 8 of them, which totals up to 21 residents living in the Arcane University, which then would mean they need 294,000 calories to eat for the week. And if we tally up all the food in the Arcane University, we'll get 319 food items, which then translates to 26,000 calories. Mainly because a lot of it is just mushrooms, and mushrooms are pretty lean. So would the people of Arcane University be able to survive based off of this food supply? No, they would die. Now I have one more district I want to show before we enter Imperial City, and that is the prison district. And yes, this one does have a tower too. And I'm just now realizing how much Imperials like their towers. First up, we're gonna go through the tower, which is also the prison as well. We got some food in the barrels back here, which I'm assuming is for the prisoners. And then if we go up the ladder, we'll find some wine and some bread and a lot of vegetables up here. This is a pretty good haul. And next up, we have the armory. And before you say anything, yes, they did put the armory right next to the prison. Why, you ask? I do not know, but it does keep me up at night. Anyway, you wouldn't really think there's any food in here, but there actually was a couple steaks and onions in the barrels here. Very yummy. Moving on to the other side of this district, we have this huge backyard back here for just one guy. He's got some barrels filled with food and some cheese. Some really good cheese. What else you got in here? However, all the food we found so far doesn't even compare to how much food is in the 2 buildings right behind me. Because as soon as you walk into this place, it is just nothing but a feast in here. You got apples, wine, bread, tomatoes, potatoes, and carrots. It's like a freaking golden corral in here. Anyway, after totaling up the buffet and the other food items, I came to a total of 180 food items, which is about 78,000 calories. And with that, I counted up about 14 people that lived here. So that would mean they need 196,000 calories on a weekly basis. So yeah, 78,000 calories is not gonna get them that far. Yeah, it looks like everyone's gonna die here. Next up, we have the first main district that you encounter as you enter Imperial City, the Talos Plaza. It's split up into 4 buildings that consist of homes for the citizens here. And also we have these nice little walkways that lead into the gardens behind the houses. And in these gardens, we'll find these little amanita caps again. And I ended up counting 32 of them. And now that we have the outside section taken care of, it's time to move on to the fun part, which is robbing people. Not that I haven't been robbing people from the beginning, but now we'll have to consistently sneak into people's homes and take their food while they're not watching. This may not seem like a big issue at first, since you can just simply wait till nighttime to enter their house while they're asleep and then you can steal everything. But some of these residents do not ever go to sleep. So then I thought, okay, fine, I'll wait outside until working hours so I can enter the house while they're at work. But no, somehow they're still there waiting for me. At this point, I was just gonna kill them, but a food thief does not kill. So instead, I just ended up spawning a few hundred invisible potions and just drank one before I stole an item. And as I was robbing everyone's food, I realized that every single homeowner had a very similar layout to one another. They had their living room / kitchen on the main floor, and this is where most of the food was located, on the tables and in the cupboards. And on the second floor, they had their bedroom. And a lot of the times they would have tables with cheese on them, which I guess that's called a cheese table. I gotta get one of those. And lastly, they all had a basement area, which most of the time it was bags of flour and rice down here. But after tallying up everyone's homes, there was only 2 places I had left. The Tiber Septim Hotel and the Foaming Flask. Both of these places are inns, and not only did they both have the most food, But the innkeeper also sells food, which sadly means I couldn't steal it. I actually had to buy something for once. And after all of that, I had now collected all the food in the Talos Plaza. And here it is, a whopping 1,609 food items, which is about 929,000 calories. And over 70% of the calories is just flour. I swear the flour is just cheating at this point. And with there being 34 citizens in the district, that would result in about 476,000 calories for the week. So yeah, that's not even gonna be close to a problem when you got flour. Next up, we got the Temple District. And we have that similar layout of the Talos district with the 4 buildings here, but this time we have a big old temple in the middle, which is why it's called the Temple District, because of the big temple. And just like the Talos district, we have those fly amanita caps just laying around everywhere out here. And I counted up about 60 of them out here. And so now this is the fun part where we get to go in everyone's homes and steal their food. And this might be a little off topic, but while I was robbing everyone's food in their homes, I loved how almost everyone's basement had a little story making you wonder what happened here. Like, you can definitely tell something bad happened here. Like maybe the mattress was the wrong size and he got mad and just threw it down the basement. That's the cool thing, we don't know. And this guy feeds his plants rat blood. Very gross. And this guy is an alcoholic. Actually, I'm starting to think everyone's an alcoholic. But this guy might take the throne for wine because he's got 81 bottles in his house. I don't know what he's going through, but I hope he's okay. It's gonna be alright, champ. Anyway, getting back on track, I counted up 33 residents that live in the Temple District. And again, I'm not gonna include the guards in this one, mainly because they live in the watchtowers. And I'm gonna total up the watchtowers later on in the video. So with 33 people, that makes 462,000 calories for the week. And here is all the food that I found in the Temple District, coming to a total of 1,278 food items, which is a rough estimate of 208,000 calories. Yeah, there was only about 10 bags of flour in this district. Yeah, it looks like Temple people are gonna die. Next up, we have the Arena District, which is definitely one of the more smaller districts in Imperial City. It has a nice outside section with some statues, and of course, the arena, where people risk their lives to kill just so they can pay rent. I mean, I get it. I've definitely been there. For the food supply here, most of it was actually in the barrels right here that's outside of the arena, which I assume is for the contestants maybe, but I don't know. Anyway, inside the arena, I actually didn't find any food in here, except for the upper section. Up here, there is some wine that you can drink while you watch the contestants kill each other. And yeah, that is pretty much all the food in this district. And according to the wiki, there's about 8 residents that live here in the Arena District, which then would tally up to 112,000 calories for the residents to eat. And now I'm gonna show you all the food I could find in the Arena District. Yeah, it turns out there's only like 31 food items here, which totals up to 60,000 calories, which is actually higher than I thought it would be, but the reason why is because there was 10 bags of flour in the barrels. But it's sad to say that the flour can only get you so far. So unfortunately, the people of the Arena District are gonna die. Next up, we have another one of the smaller districts, the Arboretum. Now I know what you might be thinking, Shmido, no one can live in the Arboretum, it's just a garden. Well actually, there is one person that does live here, Larthjar the Laggard. And there's actually more food in here than you may realize. You see, there may not be any houses or inns in this district, but there is a lot of gardens, which means there's a lot of grass. And a lot of grass means a lot of things can grow. And a lot of things that can grow is mushrooms. There's a lot of mushrooms. And funny enough, I actually counted exactly 100 of them out here. And so now the question remains, is 100 mushrooms enough to account for the 12,000 calories from Larthjar? So then I did some digging around for the average calorie count for a mushroom, and it looks like it's anywhere from 20 to 30 calories, but these look a lot smaller than the ones that are out here. So I'm just gonna do a rough estimate and just say fly amanita caps are somewhere around 80 calories. So unfortunately, just based off of calories here, Larthjar is gonna die. Next up on the list, we have the Elven District. And again, this one has that similar layout to the temple in the Talos district with the 4 buildings here. And of course we have the 22 houses that I have to go through and steal all their food, with 2 of those being inns. Most of these houses were pretty quick and easy. I was able to get in and out in maybe under 4 minutes or so. But some of these houses were unexpectedly creepy when I walked in, like Lorkmir's house. I went in expecting a quick food grab like the others and instead walked into what looked like a crime scene. Broken furniture, spoiled food, and I even found Lorkmir's sad little body hanging around in the basement here. Very sad. But he wasn't the only one with the creepy house. This guy has a Dark Brotherhood flag in his basement, which is not good. That usually means he's trying to kill someone. So yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and get out of here. Anyway, after stealing everyone's food, I came to a total of 1,148 food items, totaling up to 318,000 calories. And since there's 30 residents that live in the Elven district, that is approximately 420,000 calories, which means that the food supply is lacking just a little over 100,000 calories. So sadly, even the people of the Elven district do not have enough food. Moving on next, we have the Market District. And again, we have that same 4-building layout like the other districts, but this one is a little different. Each house is an actual shop, where homeowners are also shop owners, ranging from weapons, armor, jewelry, and even spells. They really got it all here. But surprisingly, even though there's about 20 vendors here, only a few of them actually sold any food. But whether or not if they sold any food, it didn't really matter because I just stole their personal food anyway. And after all of that, we have 1,239 food items, which totals up to 411,000 calories. And so with 25 citizens in the district, we have 350,000 calories for the week, which means everyone has enough food here. The next spot on our list is the Palace District, notorious for the big giant tower. Any guesses what it's called? That's right, the White Gold Tower, because the tower is white and in gold. I actually don't see any gold. So starting in the basement, we had some wine racks, some bags of flour and rice down here. Then we skipped the main floor since there was no food on there and go straight to the guards' quarters, where there's just a table filled with food and other goodies. And above that was the library, which just had some wine in the shelves here. There's not really much. And above that is the priest rooms, and they have quite a bit of food on the table here. And they have a lot of wine here. I guess they like to kind of get freaky on the weekends. And of course, lastly, we have the Battle Mage's Chambers. And they had a good amount of food up here with the apples, the bread, the wine, you know, the good old mage stuff. And after tallying up everyone in the tower, we should have about 17 residents here, which should be around 238,000 calories for the week. And with the entire Palace District, I counted up 445 food items, which totaled up to 70,000 calories. Yet nowhere near what I thought it would be, which means the people of the White Gold Tower are going to crumble and die. Next up on our list, we have the Guards' Watchtowers, which I know they're not a district, but they are a part of Imperial City, and each tower contains about 8 guards, which really I'm just going based off of how many beds are in the tower. Anyway, since there's 6 watchtowers in the city, that would total up to 48 guards. And each tower more or less had the same amount of food, ranging from your meats, fruits, your veggies, and of course, lots of wine. And something I had to point out in the Southwest Watchtower, there was a bunch of skooma in there. Skooma, that's illegal. You can't have that. Bunch of criminals, I'll tell you what, man. Anyway, after totaling up all the watchtower's food, I came up with 339 food items, which totals up to 38,000 calories. And with 48 guards, I'll let you do the math. Too late, I'll go ahead and tell you. That is 672,000 calories. Yeah, these guards couldn't even go a day with this food supply. Next up, we have the very last section I want to get to before the big reveal here. The beautiful sewers. Each main district that is located inside Imperial City has its own sewer system, and those sewer systems are connected to each other, filled with hostile threats, such as bandits and vampires, and the important one, creatures, because you can eat them. Well, I mean, you could eat the bandits and vampires too, but I'll save that for another video. Anyway, I ended up counting up 32 mud crabs and 22 rats in the entire sewer system. And there actually is some other food down here. Like there was some vegetables and beer in the barrels back here. And there was even 6 cheese wheels in this barrel right here. As well as that, there was even some slaughterfish down in the water in here. I don't know how many calories a slaughterfish would be, so I'm just gonna write down medium-sized fish. And tallying all that up, we have 94 items of food down here, which is about 37,000 calories. And now comes the next part. How many people live in the sewers? Well, you do have the bandits and the vampires that live down here, and they're very hostile and they'll try to kill you, but I'm not really gonna count that. I'm just gonna say that the person that does live down here is you, if you decide to. And so with that, you would need 14,000 calories, which means that you could actually live in the sewers. Hell, you could even bring a friend with you. I mean, you would have to hunt your mud crabs and rats and fight off the bandits and vampires, but hey, I mean, eating wise, you're good. And now that we have tallied up all the food in the entire area of Imperial City, it is finally time to show how much food is in this city. With about 7,165 food items, that would total up to 2,466,000 calories. And now we face the ultimate question. Could the entire population of Imperial City live off of this food supply on a weekly basis? Well, adding up all the residents that live in all the districts, we get 262 residents. And so with 262 residents, let me do a little bit of math, beep boop boop, we'll have 3,668,000 calories, which means that Imperial City is in a food crisis. People are gonna starve and die. Now, just for some more information, I actually went back and tallied up some of these districts again to see if I would get the same number, and I actually didn't. I ended up with a different number every single time. And I know compared to the actual Elder Scrolls lore that these metrics would be insanely different, especially considering that Imperial City has hundreds of thousands of citizens. But I thought this was a little fun project to experiment with. Anyway, that's it for now. Thank you guys for watching, and thank you guys again so much for all the new follows and the nice comments. I really appreciate it. I will see you guys later. Bye bye.